Hi everyone, nice to see you all of you in Armenia. This year, after participating in SQA Days for 8 years, finally I'm kind of the host for you. Welcome to Armenia. I'm happy to see you guys here. Along with this bad situation, you made it, so I'm very glad to see all of you here. Okay. My name is Sargis. I'm kind of veteran of SQA Days. This is my 8th or 9th time speaking at the SQA Days, and I'm always very happy to contribute in this community. I'm working as a director of quality insurance at Pixart, and I was in the field around 14 years. Mostly, like my specialization was in automation. I work for the different companies with the different location, and currently I'm leading a huge team of the 90 people, where we do the all over quality engineering from manual to the automation. Today we will talk about very interesting and complex topic, especially if you are into the mobile automation. We will go through the steps how we can basically build the Selenium grid with the Appium servers and devices or emulators. It will work the same way, and how you can run them your test parallel on your built-in environment. So, are you into automation with the mobile apps? Did you done it ever with Appium? Good. This is kind of a bit advanced topic, and if you will have any question, we'll come back in the end, or I will be here tomorrow. If anything that we can discuss it. You know that it's a bit hard going with the Appium, yeah. If you compare with the web and other type of the applications, the Appium is more complicated, especially when you are switching to the iOS and then you are going to run them parallel, etc. So this is one of the solution where Selenium Grid, Appium, and the device farm are playing a game in the Symphony, basically. They are like creating the environment for you to run the test. Good. Before starting presenting the solution, I would like to go through the challenges that we have in the mobile testing. In the mobile testing, the things are super different rather than with the web or desktop. Here we have very dependence on the device screen, OS fragmentation and stuff, which makes the testing more complicated. We do have a localization issue, like localization problem. Whenever the application running from the different locations, the result could be different. We have the performance, like crashing application, memory leaks, and the crashing is super hard to maintain in a different location, again with a different internet connection, etc. We have the network issues, so with the Wi-Fi, with the mobile carrier internet, and you can always have a different state. And mobile app tools. So there are which tools we need to use. Let's say, for example, how we can capture the network. For the web, we know it's easy, but for the mobile, it's becoming complicated. And also, by the way, you can capture it also with the Appium. There are lots of opportunities, so you can just capture and check whenever you want. To deal with some of these challenges, actually, with the current company, we also come to the decision to build our own mobile farm. It's not easy, it's not cheap, but in the end of the day, when you have built it, it's much cheaper than you will go to the cloud. And if you can deal with the complex situation. So if you have someone who can build it, take care of it, it's becoming cheaper. But yeah, as the solution is quite complex, you need to think twice before starting it. And also there are different reasons why you can go with this solution. Why we need to build, this farm of the devices, why we need to run inside the company or inside our own physical office instead of going to the cloud, etc. So here are some of the reasons. ability to test on real devices. This is very specific on the project. Basically, in the application which we are developing is the photo and video editing app. It has lots of visual stuff. It has, like, we are checking sometimes pixels. Like, we apply the filter, we need to understand the filter work well, we draw something on the picture, we have to check it out. And basically, we cannot run our automation test in emulators or simulators because these libraries which are allowing us to draw, they are not working in the virtual machines. So why we are, this is one of the reasons that we are forced to use the real devices. Of course, we can use on the emulator and simulator the login, logout, and some known like critical functionality, which is, I mean, not a big deal for us, basically. Another reason is like custom infrastructure for automation. Basically, the application which we are using for the automation, we are customizing it. And this is one of the very critical reasons to keep it private. I mean, to not send to the other cloud, because this is the customized app, and there are lots of endpoints that you can use and break the application. So this is something that, like security stuff, we need to keep inside the company under our networks, all the application that we are using for the automation. I already told that this is a photo editing app. We have to basically there are some tests which we are using the image comparison, and even from the phone to phone, even they are the same models. The screenshots are sometimes different for 2-3%, and this makes lots of complex situations. So why do we have specific test suite which is running on exactly this device? And another one is another device. Basically, we have a farm, and farm has devices, and every device has a label. And we have an ability that we can say that run this test only on this or that device. So it allows us also customization. And end of the day, so if you build everything and you can take care of it, it's much cheaper than continuously using the clouds. But cheaper is a bit, it's truer and false, because you need someone to build. So human resource also should be counted in it, because basically building this kind of the solutions is quite complex, and you will need quite long time to deal with it. So main achievement that we done with creating this solution is one of these use a real device, we already said. So with this customization and creating of this infrastructure, we have access to every level of the automation suite. For example, whenever we need to sign application for the April and stuff, we can automate it. And we never do it manually. So everything done by the framework and infrastructure that we created, and any one of you can customize it for your case. So we are using a secure private mobile farm. No one has an access. The network is under our VPN. So it's quite secure. And we understand also with this solution that we shouldn't automate everything. And this is kind of the true, and this kind of the solutions are helping us to accept this, accept this dilemma more and more, because running the test in this kind of the mobile farms is much expensive, because it makes time, they are quite flaky, etc. So you need to concentrate on the critical paths and do not write test for everything in every moment. Good. So let's go to the implementation, and later on I will give some even comments on the piece of the code. Later, if you have the presentation, you can try it out by yourself to understand how it works, and also have a model working for you. Well, of course, to have the mobile device farm, we need the mobile devices. Basically, it's Android, iOS. We tried also with the iPods, which worked for us. You can also have a tablets. Whenever is your target, you can choose the applications for you. We basically use Java, but you can use whenever you want. It doesn't have any effect on it. We use Appium, Selenium grid, and of course Jenkins, so everything is connected to the Jenkins, because if we are talking about automation, running automation for me should be a button that I will click and it will run. You shouldn't do any manual action. Whenever you have automation suite and you do manual action before running it, then it's not automation. For example, if you need to manually create this data to kick off the run, this shouldn't be like called automation. This is like semi-automation. So some part of it automated, but not. So basically, we did our best to have a pipeline that you will click the pipeline build button. The maximum that you will do, you will select the branch. I want to run the test against this branch. And our pipeline will go and download the application code. It will build the APK or IPA file for the iOS. It will bring to the pipeline. It will install to all devices and will start to run the test. So everything is one click. And whenever you are out of the office, you can just click on it, and in the morning you will have a result. And one of the interesting automations that we are fan of it, and we are doing a lot, we have a lot of integration Jenkins with the Slack bots. Basically, any Jenkins job I can run from my Slack. Just I'm going to the Slack. I mean, as in Pixar, the release management is also under the quality engineering. So we also automated all the release processes. Basically, whenever I want to release the new version from the master branch, right now I can open the Slack and ask the bot, release the new version from master. Within the 40 minutes, it will be in App Store. So this kind of stuff, I'm kind of a bit crazy about these automations and always trying to automate anything which is moving. So, and this was another thing that we are paid a lot of resources, using a lot of resources to have this kind of mobile farm. And so my approach was, if a lot of companies which is selling the cloud services, they can make it, we can make it either. We just need the time, so we allocate the time and get to it. So for the older stack, what we used, it's Mac Mini. Mac Mini because for the iOS devices, we can use only Mac Minis. Right now, basically, I didn't put it here, but for the Android, we are using Ubuntu machine, which is much powerful and easy to set up. And for the iOS, we are using Mac Mini. These both machines are registered in Jenkins as a node. We use the power USB hubs to connect all these, 20 devices to one machine. We use the cables, of course, USB or Type-C, and then for Android, and we have the monitors which we stopped using, but there was a monitors which were showing the last run result always on it. It was fun in the beginning, we built in the shelf and put in the middle of the office, and everyone was walking around the office and seeing how the tests, these phones themselves doing a work instead of us, and it was very interesting for the people. They were coming, standing, and watching what's happening on the phones, and then it becomes regular stuff, and we turned off the monitors. No one was interested in it. So basically, the ecosystem looks like this. We have Jenkins here. We have this Mac machine, which is connected to the Jenkins as a node, and we use the speed up the Selenium grid in this machine, and all these devices are connected with the USB hub to the same machine. And what we do, we register all these devices separately as a node in a Selenium grid. Every single phone getting its own Appium server with the unique port and registering in the Selenium grid. Whenever you run your test, you just have your Selenium grid URL like /vd hub, and then the grid will decide which one is free, and then will distribute the test. Whenever the node is getting free, it will be replaced with a new one. Yeah. And the same exactly happening with the Android and the iOS. Today, as we have like limitation of the time, I will go through the setup for the Android, but the iOS setup is pretty the same, plus the provisioning and signing stuff, which is you're familiar, I think, about. So again, for the Android, it's again exactly the same. Every device becoming a node in the grid. Good. How we can start the Selenium grid? I'm talking about, like I'm using right now here like Selenium Hub 3, but the 4 is in a way. For the Android, I will present with the next version, which is, for the Appium, with the next version, which is 2.0, which is not officially released yet, but there is a release candidate, and basically we are experimenting with it. To spin up the Selenium Hub, you can use the Docker, which is the easiest option to do. And to make it much easier, you just create your Docker compose file. You just mention there that I need the Selenium Hub. This is the last stable version of Selenium Hub 3. And then we say that maximum sessions that we can handle it is 30. The clean cycle, timeout, etc. And in like JavaScript true. And then we are running it on 444 port. So how we run when we have this YAML file, it's super easy. You just go to the terminal, you write the Docker compose up, and we put the minus there, so it will be run on the background. So it will not disrupt us. So whenever you have this Docker compose file, you do the Docker compose up minus them. You will have it will download the image, Selenium image. It will run in the Docker, and end of the day, you will have the Selenium grid running on your machine. So basically, with these steps, we're going to have the Selenium grid running on localhost 4444 port, which means we will run on this endpoint, just /vd/hub. Okay? So the next step is we need to have the Appium. As I mentioned already, I used for this presentation the next candidate for the Appium, which is 2.0. Basically, to be able to install the Appium 2, you need to go to the terminal and go say npm i-g install Appium add next, which is the next candidate, which is not released officially yet. And if you are not if you didn't get into the Appium 2, they separate all the drivers from the main Appium core. Basically, if you want to run the Android test, you separately need to install the plugin for the Android. If you want to go with the iOS, you need to also run the Xcode UI test. You have to install separately. Basically, they did like a microservices, and for example, if you want an image comparison in your test, you can also do like the Appium driver install. Appium plugin install like images, and you can use this functionality of comparing screens with the baselines. So when we have the Appium installed in the machine, we need to create this configuration file. This is the JSON file for the devices. So this configuration for the node. Basically, we are saying that this is for Android. Of course, for iOS, we'll have different file. Max instant 1. Basically, one device can run one thread of the test. We cannot do parallel running on one device. So there is cycle registration timeout. Here we have to write the machine IP. So this was my machine IP when I was testing. And then we write the URL, which will be responsible for a running endpoint for the remote driver. Okay, so when we have the Appium, we have this JSON file for the nodes. We can run the Appium server, which will be registering a new node in the Selenium grid. Basically, we are calling Appium server, giving an Appium host, which is in my case, it's like localhost 4444, or the IP, and then again the same. This is with the Appium 2, you have to give the URL ending. We are saying that node config is this file, so it's in the same directory where from I'm running. And then we are giving the capabilities, giving them device ID and the system port. Yeah, and we have here the port for the Appium, and this is a system port for Appium. Again, with the Appium 2, all the capabilities that you want to add need to start with the Appium port. So you put Appium UUID, because with the like Appium 1, you just were writing UUID. Good? So whenever you run, so you have running server for the Appium. You see that I run it one in 4740 port and 8210. The only thing that I need to change here is the ID, system port, and the port. The next one, I run the same command with a different port and with a different device ID. Yeah, I ran the command 3 times because at the moment that I was creating these slides, I had 3 Android devices on my table. I mean, it was 2 and plus the emulator. This exactly the same steps working for the emulator. You just need to spin up the emulator in the machine. In the end, I have the grid with the 3 nodes. Yeah? And then this grid is ready to run the tests. In the beginning, you will feel that it's like too long to play, you know, all this setup and stuff. But you remember that I like to automate everything that moves. So in this command, you see that there is a start command and there is 3 things that moving. It's device ID, it's host, port, and the 2 ports. The rest is stable. So right now I will go with the steps and will help you to automate all the stuff to not do it manually. And of course, you can use the same scripting for you. So again, let's take a look at the command, which is like more manual stuff, doing like step by step, generating new port which will be free, and take the port and, I don't know, take the IP. Sometimes the IP is changed, like you lost the network, you received a new network, you are getting the new IP, so it could be dynamic. And we have the device ID, which I can try to change the device. So today I'm running on one device, and tomorrow maybe I would like to run to another device. So it could be dynamic. So what we're going to do? This command is for the Mac. If you are working on Ubuntu, you just Google it, how you can get the current IP from the command line. So this command, when I run on a Mac, it gives me my current IP. Yeah? The second one, this will give me all the device IDs in a list, I mean, that I have connected to the particular machine. Yeah, it's just doing the ADB devices as it has the IDs and then names, etc. With this regex, we're just dropping all the name, we just keep the IDs. And then we create this magical, short, helpful by scripting. So what we are saying, we have variable host, and we are assigning the current machine IP. We have devices, which will be a list in this case. Basically, when we run this one, if there is 3 devices, this list will have 3 IDs in it. We have the port, and we have a system port. We just kept the pattern because, like in Appium, it suggested it's like starting from 4.7, and the system port is starting from 8.2. We just write one cycle for every device. If we have a 3 device connected, it will run 3 times. If we have a 10 devices, it will run 10 times. Basically, we say for E in devices. I say that this is the same command with the variables. With the port, the first one will be 4713. The host, and this is the ID, yeah, because it's in devices, it's I, and this is the S port. You put this end to show that run in background and go ahead, because if you don't put the end, it will stuck in the first Appium server run. And then we say that just add 2, I mean I'm adding 2, you can add 1 or 10 whenever you want, to the port, because for every node, the port should be unique. So every time I'm adding +2 to make sure that the port number is changed, and then when it's running second time, third time, and then you will have it. Good. So when I run the script, it's just running instantly 3 Appium servers, registering these 3 Appium servers in the Selenium grid, and in the end we are having the grid with the 3 nodes. I mean, all this long story when I was telling you, like it's done by one script, just I wanted to make sure that every single line of the script that we are using is clear for you guys. And then overall pipeline, as I explained you in the beginning, that the one that we are right now using, it's in the Jenkins, written in the Groovy, the pipeline. When we run the test, it builds the binary, it gives the run test, and then the test with the Selenium hub URL sending to the Selenium grid. And Selenium grid is running on all devices that are connected and generating report for us. To be more specific, I would say that right now in our company we have a device farm with 30 devices in it, and we are for the Android, and we are running around 2,000 test cases within the 2 hours using these techniques. Basically, I showed you, like for the 3, but whenever you connect the 30, if the machine is quite powerful and memory and the CPU will be enough, you can scale it as much as the power of the machine will allow you. And in the end, this is one of our cases when the tests are running with the exactly same techniques. All these devices are connected to the Selenium hub, and we are running against the Selenium grid, and we are running all the tests parallel within this like 1 or 2 hours. Basically, right now we have around 2,000 test cases in Android, 1,800 on iOS, and around 2,000 on the web, which doesn't connected to this one. And I think that's all. And if you have any question, I will be happy to discuss it with you.
Thank you so much. The first question.
Thank you. It's not a question for discuss, but we have a problem with with devices that we have a lack of power. And maybe you can recommend a model for USB hub that you're using to connect.
I will do.
Yeah, thank you.
Just remind me. Yeah, we had that issue with charging, yes? There is another issue with the mobile farm because they are blowing up. When you use these devices like 24 hours per day, the battery is like really blowing up, and we destroyed several devices during the past several years. But even if you calculate the cost, it's much cheaper and it's like safer to run there. We had an issue with that, and the issue was when we were connecting with the USB, usually the devices were spending more like electricity that it was able to charge. And at some point they were just shut down. I investigated for like a month, and I find out several suggestions, and we started to buy it. We find one which is quite good, like the device is never dying, like it has very good power that like it has 20 spots, so you can connect 20 devices and all of them are able to be charged and work on the spot. Just remind me, I will send it to you. Okay. You can buy it on Amazon if there is a possibility, so we are ordering via some services from the Amazon.
Okay, is there any other questions?
Можете задавать вопросы на русском.
Спасибо большое за доклад. Вот у вас в вашей схеме используется Appium сервер, Selenium Grid, да? А почему не использовать только Appium сервер и параллелизацию настраивать по портам?
В этом случае, I will answer in English if it's okay.
Okay.
In that case, what an issue when you have a different Appium servers with a different port, for example, you need to run like your thread should run with the unique URL, like port and the VD hub. At least this is the most obvious issue. In this case, you have one port, one URL, and the grid is deciding it for you. This is the first issue. Like you have a static URL, which is localhost 4444 VD hub. In case if you don't do with the hub, you will have like localhost 4730, localhost 4732, localhost 40, and you will have basically 30 URL to deal with it. And you need to handle from the code side that every thread will be assigned to one server. The second point of it, why it's not like suggested to do. I did the simplification of it, so I didn't add advanced kind of advanced implementation of it to be clear, because most of you may be like starting with it, so I didn't want to make it heavy. But there is a lot of opportunities that you can, for example, with the help of the grid, record the video for the failure. You can, for example, okay, in our case, the stand is standing next to the table, but I can just shut down this table, put in the server room, and work. And with the grid help, you can have VNC access to any device. Like some device stuck, or you want to see how the test is running, the device is not near to you, it's in the server room, you don't need to go to the server room to find out how the test is running. You just connecting via VNC. There are like lots of functionality that you can use with it. And also with Selenium Grid 4, there are more functionalities. Just we didn't still like fully tested it. I didn't want to do the presentation of something that we didn't use. So I just try to present what we actually are doing. Maybe next year I will have some such like topic about like parallelization and stuff with the new tools. But currently these are the stacks that we are using. But if we are going, we start digging into it, we will find more advantages. At least the load balancer. So, for example, if you are directly connecting to the Appium, it can hang, and for example, for timeouts, you need to again set up for every node. This is your timeout. In this case, you are saying to the hub, if you don't receive the request from the code side, for example, within the 30 seconds, just shut down the node and give the node to the next thread. So there are also like load balancing, and you can configure the load balancing for your case, which works for you best. Okay.
Yeah. Another question?
Thank you for your presentation. Maybe I missed it, but why you choosing Grid but not Selenoid?
We use Selenoid for the web browser automation. Selenoid supports some Android, but not iOS yet. But we are running on Android and iOS. In the beginning, I told that I'm showing the Android example, but it's quite close to the iOS. As we have a limited time, I didn't put the steps also for the iOS, but maybe if you want, next time, just write a suggestion. We can talk about the iOS.
Okay, I have a second question. Can I?
Yeah.
And could you please describe shortly how you collect reports from all
Allure
nodes.
reporting.
From all nodes.
All nodes?
Yes,
Ah, okay.
because I know
That's
that
a tricky question.
It is a main issue for distributed system, yes, and testing. Can you please explain?
Yeah, the way that we did it, that was one of the hardest things that team needs my involvement there to deal with it, and I spent a lot of time because in the beginning when we designed it in the early stages, we had 10 nodes, we have 10 reports. So, and it was very hard to open all these reports and stuff. As you know, when Allure is running, it's generating the JSON files, and also it generates the screenshots whenever they're needed, etc. So what we do, the Jenkins server itself, it's running in the cloud. These machines, which are the nodes, are in the house, just registered in that cloud. In the end of the run, you know the Jenkins pipelines. We have the post run always, which takes all these files and sending to the Jenkins cloud server, which has more capacity and stuff, and to specific folder. And when you configure the Allure reporting in the Jenkins, you just say the files are in this direction, but you still lose the history because they are not connected to each other. I'm pretty sure that there are a way to manage it out, to keep the history, just we need to dig in. But as long as the team, I talked to the team and they said we don't need it, it's totally fine. We still didn't spend time on it, but it's, I'm pretty sure that it's doable. You just need to keep all the files or keep the last 10 runs to keep on track on the history.
I think that mostly uses the same way for collecting reports.
There is also report portal from Appium open source. That's working like totally another way. You are just spinning up the server for the reporting, and on the fly when your tests are running, they use the same token to send the test run details there. And in the end, like even the one funny thing there that you are getting the report on the fly. So 10 tests are run, you have the 10 test result. So it's like on-demand reporting, but it takes a lot of time and effort to configure and keep another server up just for the reporting. So once I did, but then I find out Allure reporting more convenient for that. Thank you, Tom.
Okay. Any other questions for discussion?
Go ahead. Also, maybe I missed it because I'm not from start your presentation. Why you use physical devices? You have some specific test cases. Why you don't use? You mentioned service from AWS. I think it is a device firm. Yeah, firm. And why?
There's the browser stack, SOSLab, Genymotion, which is in the beginning I told that we are testing the photo and video editing app. And lots of cases we have an issue with dealing with the pictures. For example, we have to check is the effect applied correctly. So we don't have any other way rather than, for example, compare with the baseline, for example. But even when there is the same model of, let's say, iPhone 10, we are taking a screenshot and comparing, they are totally different. Visually they are the same, but when the code is checking, maybe there are 1 pixel line or something. This is the one reason. The second reason is the library, which is called Face++, which used for like drawing something on a picture, or I don't know, doing some stuff on applying mask or applying add object, etc., which done this with the different libraries which working usual. They are working only on the real devices, and we cannot. So why we cannot run on the emulators, basically like emulator farms. And the third reason is that the application that we are using for the automation is specific build with the specific parameters. For example, we are turning off all the subscription cases in case we need, and then we use this APK, which is kind of the private information, and the only way is to keep under our VPN. So, but in any case, if you have a simpler case and the device farm is working for you, it's totally fine. And last but not least, when I was calculating the cost, if I will have a 30 devices for me from the cloud, and basically we are running 24 hours. Like, it's always in a run. There is a huge queue, whole the night it's running several times. In the morning we have 10 builds. For example, every team has its own build to review, etc. If we order the dedicated devices for the 30 parallel run, that's much, much expensive that we build in-house. Basically, for 3 months payment, we were building a huge device farm. But again, it's not easy to set up, it's not easy to take care of it. If you have the knowledge and the engineers who can deal with it, it's much cheaper. But if you will be lost in the configuring the stuff, maybe it's easier to pay and get limited access to the device farms. I mean, there are like constant pros. It's not that good or bad. Whenever you need to evaluate your case specifically before doing it.
Okay, I think that's all. No? This is the last question.
Sorry, thank you for presentation. By the way, are there any difficulties while you are trying to do debugging on one of the mobile phones from your mobile phone?
Actually, we have a lot of customization of it. Basically, we can run all the tests on one device. Of course, it will take a month. But if you need to run 10 tests on specifically one device, we have a Jenkins job where you write that this is the test and this is a device that I need to run on it. And basically, we can specifically run the same test or debug because you can just spin up the Selenium grid, and if you send the UUID of the specific device, it will go and run on it, and you can do from the local machine and debug whenever you need. I don't think that it's needed for the guys because they have the failure like screen recording. They can just they are getting a lot of information. Also, this. For the debugging purposes, this ALU reporting allows us to collect a lot of information. Basically, when we have a failure, we have a screenshot, we have the device ID model and memory used, etc. All the device current capturing all the information, attaching to the report. We are even attaching there the logged in user ID, username, password in case you need to replicate the case. You can use exactly the same user. And whenever we did the API data preparation, we keep all this data and then attaching to the report to have everything on your hands while you are debugging. But I'm sure that the team never needs to debug directly on the farm, but of course there is a possibility. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's all for today. Thank you so much. And I would like to remind you that you have one ticket.
Yeah, I will give you, Alexei? No? The T-shirt? Okay, then Sergey.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. See you somewhere in this crazy world.